All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today on Sell More Homes Now on YouTube, as well as theredpillinvestor.com. Thank you so much for joining me today on today's podcast, as well as today's video. We're going to go ahead and have a great time prospecting, trying to set a few appointments with some expired listings, a couple cancels, maybe even a cold call or two. We'll see what we can do about getting us an appointment. Along the way, we're going to have a lot of fun discussions about some of the news of the day. One of the top stories that you're definitely going to want to learn and hear about is how a fellow, I should say, with LocalBitcoins, I should say, it's a trading outfit. He offered fake real estate for Bitcoin. And you would be surprised to learn how many people fell for that one, trading Bitcoin for land that didn't exist. Then, of course, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the larger, more concerning story, of course, which is First American Financials Corporation, the First American title people, if you will. They inadvertently leaked hundreds and hundreds of millions of title insurance records, driver's licenses, social security numbers, all those sorts of things were available. Holy cow. We're going to get into that one for sure. Then, given a little bit of time, we're going to go ahead and jump into what has come out is now something we've been talking about for a while, this housing slowdown. You know, if you call it a slowdown or a softening or, whatever you call it, wherever you are, it's real and it's here. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the specifics as to why that is and some of the numbers you need to know so you can tell your clients things that will be helpful and beneficial to them. If you're an investor, it's going to be especially helpful for you because you're going to learn some of the things that you need to say to help your clients, your customers, see the light as to why they need to sell to you now. Then, of course, if we have any time left, we're going to have a little, story, if you will, story time, if you will, about young real estate flippers that got their first taste of losing in this market. I don't relish the thought that anybody should lose any money in this game. I mean, gosh, that's not good for anybody. But, when you see some obvious signs and then you see people lose money, well, gosh, it makes you kind of think to yourself, oh, boy, what lessons could I learn, right? That I think is ultimately the goal. So let's go ahead and get started with our prospecting. Let's go ahead and get started reading these articles. Let's go ahead and get started with our day, taking it to the Lord with prayer. Lord, we'll just ask that that you would bless these people who are watching this video, that are listening to this podcast, that you'd be able to educate them with something that would be helpful for their clients and their customers, that they would learn something, that they would be edified. And Lord, that the people that I call today would be helpful, that we would be able to help them, that they would be receptive to what we have to say, and that they would take it in good spirit. Lord, help me to say the right things, get me out of the way, use your spirit to the glory of Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Press dial. Boom. So here we go. Consistency is always key. Now, as you know, I'm always a big prospector. I don't always prospect and record every session. So I certainly prospect every morning here with you for a couple of reasons. The first reason is so the just in case factor, because you never know. Every now and again, when you're prospecting, you get that 1 in a million occasion, maybe 1 in 10,000 occasion, where something really cool happens. And then you wish you had a recording of it. That way somebody else could learn, and that way somebody else could profit from it. And that's one reason why I record these. The other is, of course, so that I can go ahead and remain accountable. I want to remain accountable to you, because that way I know that, well, gosh, if I don't feel like getting up in the morning, then, you're going to wonder, well, gosh, good morning.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice
You're going to wonder, well, gosh, where is Carl? Where's this podcast? Where's the video? At least that's my mind. You might wonder. You may not wonder, but that's what I tell myself. And it helps me to get up and come in here and be accountable to you to prospect. And then, of course, thirdly, it helps reinforce, I think, to you the importance of consistency. Even though you don't always get a consistent result from prospecting, you may not always get an appointment, right? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You may not always get a listing appointment. You may not always find a wholesale deal. You might not always get even a person to pick up the phone. But by remaining consistent to a method of prospecting, mine just happens to be calling on the phone. That's what I like to do, right? Maybe yours is different.
Hello.
Hey, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
What can I do you for?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure if I got the right place. I'm looking for the owner of that home on Caton Mountain. Is that yours?
On where?
On Caton Mountain Drive?
No.
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. I got the wrong fella altogether. I apologize. Okay. Well, listen, since I got you anyway, missed him. All right. No worries. Wrong number. Delete that. All right. Good deal. Thirdly, that just because prospecting on the telephone is my method doesn't mean that that's going to be your method. Maybe your method is door knocking. Maybe your method is, I don't know, direct mail, right? Maybe your method is handwriting yellow letters. Whatever your method of lead generation is, you have to be consistent in order for it to work. And hopefully, by me coming out here and prospecting daily with you, I don't know how many of you really listen to this. I know that far more of you listen to this in the podcast because it's simply easier to do in the podcast in the car at theredpillinvestor.com. I certainly understand that than maybe listening to it on YouTube for an hour. But I do hope that it's my hope anyway, that you'll pick up at least a tip or a trick or maybe an idea here or there, or maybe you'll learn something in the news that will be helpful to you that you can tell your customer, tell your client, that will help you make more money. That's my hope for you in this podcast. And that's why I do it every day, regardless of the outcome, regardless if I get an appointment or not. I do it for you because I think that it has value, not only for me, but for you. So let's go ahead and jump into the stories of the day. The first story, of course, this comes to us. This is right from Bloomberg. The authorities brought criminal charges against a local LocalBitcoins trader in connection with operating an unlicensed money transmission business. Essentially, his name is Morgan Raccoons, will serve a 21-month federal prison sentence for his activities, which included a Bitcoin-based real estate fraud scheme. An indictment appeared in November 2017 with an arrest in February of 2018. And after his release on bail, however, Raccoons began operating an allegedly outright criminal business, Bitcointopia, offering land which never existed in return for Bitcoin. Now, to put this in perspective for you, this guy is trading at, he's trading at local Bitcoins, and he's doing over 1,000 trades on this platform until the end of 2017. He's sitting there doing well over 1,000 trades. Okay. And he failed to register as a money transmitter with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And because of that, I guess he kind of fell under their radar. And that's what kind of caused them to pick him up in the first place. So he got picked up. And then when he was released, then he began this illegal business of offering land in return for Bitcoin. Now, obviously, people would send this fellow Bitcoin and they never received title for land as promised. and it turns out that the federal agents have determined.
Hello.
Hi, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
What's that?
My name is Carl. I'm not sure if I have the right person. I was looking for Mary. She owns a property on Via Roma. Is that yours?
She owns property where?
Via Roma. Mary Knapp, are you the owner of that home on Via Roma?
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh, I have the wrong number. I apologize. I apologize. Well, since I've got you anyway, do you happen to know of anybody who's got an unwanted home that I could buy for cash?
No, I don't.
Okay, no problem. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to think about it anyway, okay?
Bye. Okay.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right. Okay, and continue. So essentially, federal agents found at least 10 victims of this fellow's fraud. And then he was arrested again in October 2018 and pled guilty to crypto-related fraud charges related to Bitcointopia, as well as operating a money transmitting business without a license. Okay. I get it. You know, all you Bitcoin guys out there, you're the anarchists of the world. I understand that, you know, you don't subscribe to many things, but some of you, maybe not. That's not fair. Maybe not all.
Call has been forwarded
Maybe
to
not
an
all of you
automated voice
Bitcoin fellows,
messaging
right?
system.
But
Angie, Dan timer.
here we are. We got a fella out there selling fake real estate for Bitcoin, and you got some people apparently willing to buy it. What does that say about us? I just don't know. I don't know who's more to fault. I don't know if it's more to fault the guy who actually was selling fake real estate, you know, for fake money. I don't know if I should blame him or the people who are buying fake real estate with fake money. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe if you put real money in to buy Bitcoin with the expectation that you're going to have real estate, I suppose that would be fraudulent. But it just seems to me like that just stinks right from the get-go. I mean, good Lord. I mean, how did you get to that point where you were looking on the internet and you thought to yourself, you know what? This is a good idea. I'm going to buy some vacant land with some Bitcoin. Well, at what point did you think that was a good idea? I am shocked to discover how people are so in love with Bitcoin, which I get it. I mean, I understand the impetus behind it. Believe it. I get it. But you know, it's just like we talked about the other day in this issue of blockchain and recordation and working with title companies and real estate. You know, blockchain. I think that has a lot of potential in real estate and finance and a lot of other applications that require security and a transfer of information. I think that's a very useful technology that is in the forefront, blockchain. Bitcoin, however, well, I don't know, right? That's a little bit more ethereal, right? I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I understand that if it wasn't real, then you wouldn't have to register for it and there wouldn't be a crime about it. I understand. There's certainly implications. There's real world implications about Bitcoin and the money that people invest into that. There's certainly an implication about buying land and the consideration you give, whether it be Bitcoin or a ruby ring or a thing of chapstick, whatever it is that you've given as consideration for a piece of property. You have a reasonable expectation that consideration will be, used in return for real property. But if you're offering out property that is not real and you're trying to get Bitcoin out of it, I don't know. I mean, just seems like there's a whole lot of peanut butter in that peanut butter and jelly sandwich that's just smushing around. I don't know. Maybe I'm old fashioned. All right, let's move into the second question here. Or I should say the second issue. The second one is First American Financial leaked hundreds of millions of title insurance records. So the website for Fortune 500 real estate title insurance, First American Financial, which is First American Title, leaked hundreds of millions of documents related to mortgage deals going back to 2003. That is 16 years. I mean, let me hold on a second. Let me do my calculations here. All right, so this is 2019, and you got 2003, and you take away the 6, and you take it and then you add the 2. Yeah, I think that's 16 years. 16 years worth of bank receipts, bank account numbers, statements, mortgage and tax records, social security numbers, wire transaction receipts, driver's license images, all available without authentication to anyone with a web browser. Anybody. No, you didn't even have to go to China for this one, boy. No, folks, you could go right here in your own backyard and get hundreds of millions of, ooh, boy. It wouldn't hurt so much if it wasn't for the fact that, First American Title does so much business across the United States. They've had literally millions and millions of transactions across the United States for 20, 30 years. I don't even know how many years. I mean, it's just ridiculous the amount of time. Turns out that there was a fellow, Ben Chauval. He was a real estate developer in, turns out, I believe it was Washington. Yeah, Washington. Washington State, that is. He had a little bit of luck. He didn't really have any luck trying to get a hold of these First American folks. He had said, hey, look, on your website, firstdam.com, this thing's leaking tens, maybe thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of records. And First American said, oh, okay, well, we'll get back to you on that, I guess, or something. He said he didn't really have any luck at all. So what does this guy do? Well, he goes to Krebs on Security, which is a real estate security firm, and he lets them know, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but if you go ahead and you type in firstdam.com with this little link right here that people get, and then you just change this number to a different number, well, then you got access to all this. Now, needless to say, they didn't believe him. They were very skeptical at first that this would be something that would be so easily done. But as it turns out, yeah, lo and behold, they were able to do the very same thing. It said that Krebs on
call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Krebs on Security confirmed the real estate developer's findings, which indicated that First American's website exposed approximately 885 million files, the earliest dating back more than 16 years. No authentication was required to read the documents. Yeah, he said that anyone who knew the URL for a valid document at the website could view the documents by just modifying a single digit in the link. And this could potentially include anyone who's ever been sent a document link via email by First American Title. That is unbelievable. That, I get that there's going to be situations where you can't plug every leak. There's going to be situations where you can't stop every hole. You can't stop everything. And I understand this, right? But I also understand that when people come to you and they say, hey, look, I think you have a data breach, you need to take that extremely seriously, especially if you're a company like First American Title Company. Turns out, I was just reading news and prepared for this, in preparation for this, that there's now, as of 18 hours ago, there's now a class action lawsuit that has been filed against First American Title for this data breach. And this is going to go national. And if you don't think that there's a bunch of people out there looking at this and thinking to themselves, well, gosh, was my data exposed? You're sorely mistaken. This law firm is going to go ahead and make a real, very, very good case. Even though it appears that no data was really released, that it appears that it was just exposed to the people who were able to find this breach. Nonetheless, It just doesn't look good. It really doesn't. When it comes out to the real estate community that, everybody has told you that you've got a problem and your company doesn't take a solid stance to this, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Certainly in my mind, I would think if you're a real estate agent or if you're an investor and you know that First American Title, had this data breach problem, look, that's an issue to me. Yeah, you get, you send your data everywhere. I understand, and that's the way but look, that says something to me. If you're unwilling to take a hard look at your security, if you're unwilling to listen to your clients who are telling you, hey, there's a problem here, you need to solve this. If you're unwilling to do anything about it, I'm not so sure that you're the kind of company that I need. I don't know. That's a little scary. I've done business with First American. I like them. They're a good company, but gosh, that's no bueno. That is no bueno at all. All right. Well, listen, we've gone through the expires and the canceleds. Let's go ahead. We didn't have too many of those today. Let's go ahead and jump into this case. We're going to just do straight cold call. Now, I'm going to do these straight cold calls here in this neighborhood simply to demonstrate a couple things. First, that you're going to be able to find some people who will be interested at least in what their values are, right? And as an investor, especially as a realtor who invests, this is something that can help. Calling into an area that's a little bit older. I know this has a little bit of a higher turnover area. This is not the one that I was calling yesterday. This is actually
This is Rick. Leave me a message.
This is actually an area up near the foothills of Tucson, Arizona. This little particular area is condos that are older that many times need a little bit of remodeling. Oh, I shouldn't say condos. They're townhouses, and yeah, I guess that's townhouses probably the better way to put it. They're single story townhouses that are up against the Catalina foothills. People kind of like these because they're larger in square footage. They have a little bit of a smaller yard to a medium-sized yard. It's not too much to take care of, and it's close to a lot of the main traffic arteries. So this makes it very helpful for people if they're looking to sell, then they could certainly go ahead and sell this property and move on down. This is typically a move down neighborhood, or maybe somebody who's going into an assisted care, or maybe moving in with their kids or something along those lines. They're maybe moving back home to Minnesota or something along those lines because they're...
Hello.
Hey, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you? Hi, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
What's it about?
Well, I'm not sure if I've got the right person, so it sounds like I owe you an apology in advance. I'm actually looking for Tim. He owns a property over there on Foothills Drive. Is that yours?
No, wrong number.
Gosh, I'm sorry. Well, listen, since I got you anyway, do you know anybody who's got an unwanted home I could buy for cash?
No, I sure don't. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Well, have a great day. Thanks. All right, there we go. Yeah, we'll make a couple different calls to a couple different areas for sure. That way we'll go ahead and get a nice smattering of what we can get as far as contacts. So let's step into the next story. This comes from Bloomberg Business Week. Title here is Young Real Estate Flippers Get Their First Taste of Losing. Oh, gosh. God bless their hearts. Boy, it is difficult. It really is difficult to get started in the flipping game. I mean, I can't tell you how many times as a realtor, as an investor myself, that I have seen brand new investors get into this game from, I don't know, from bigger pockets or maybe a real estate guru or whatever that they've seen and think that this is pretty easy. Then they jump in, buy a property, and the next thing you know, they're in over their head losing some money. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Says that after piling in when the market was hot, investors are facing losses from homes that take too long to sell. This article comes to us from Prashant Gopal over there at Bloomberg Business Week. He wrote this article, and I'll tell you, I went ahead and read this article, and it's super informative. If you have an opportunity to go to check it out, I would highly recommend that you go look at Bloomberg's article over there, because they talk about some very personal stories that I think we could all relate to. I mean, maybe not you, but maybe somebody you know. All right, maybe somebody you know is in the real estate game, who's got in the real estate game strictly because of flipping. And, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think you would agree that there's an awful lot of people in the business who are trying to flip properties. I know that here in Tucson, there's multiple agents buying properties and, putting a certain finish on them and turning around and selling them. That's just the way they operate. And that's okay. I mean, there's no problem with that. I mean, all love to them, right? But it does take a little bit of finesse. It does take a little bit of understanding. It's not like...
Hi, this is Jenny. Please leave me a message and I'll call you back. Thank you.
This is not like something that you could just jump into and then all of a sudden, boom, you've got it and it's no problem. It's a skill set, right? The story starts off with a fellow by the name of Sean Pan. Sean Pan, it really wouldn't matter if his name was Sean Pan or Sean John or John Smith or Peter Joe, or it wouldn't matter. This is everybody. This is the guy in your town, right? Tell me if this sounds like anybody you know, right? If you're a realtor and an investor, you can certainly appreciate where I'm coming from with this one, right? It says that Sean Pan wanted to be rich, and his day job as an aeronautical engineer just wasn't cutting it. So at 27, he started a side gig flipping houses in the booming San Francisco Bay Area. Wow. Well, first of all, kudos to you, Sean Pan. I mean, kudos to you for wanting to go ahead and flip houses in the San Francisco Bay Area. That takes a big pair. I mean, you are a brave man, right? Continue with the story. It says that he was hooked after making $300,000 on his first deal. And that was nearly 2 years ago. Now, home sales are plunging, right? One property in Sunnyvale near Apple Incorporated's headquarters left Pan and his partners with a $400,000 loss. I ate it so hard. He said, yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah, sounds like it. We've been talking about this issue for a number of days. We talked about it just a few minutes ago, how the home prices, the home slowdown, softening, it's real. We said that the home prices throughout much of the country don't look like they're coming down anytime soon, but they're also not really shooting up as much as they had in previous years. Right? Nationally, prices have notched up.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Thanks for the call. Sorry I missed it. Leave me a message and I'll call you back.
says that nationally, prices have notched up 3.7% in March, according to the latest CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. And that's the lowest growth, the lowest level of growth that they've seen since September 2012. And that was when everything was struggling to rebound from the recession. It also marks the 12th straight month of diminishing price increases. What have we been talking about the last few days? The year over year price increases. Things have been going up. Of course they have. You know, a couple of years ago, they were going up really fast. So it's not surprising to me that Sean Pan or John Smith or Peter Smith or Jane Doe, they would have made $300,000 on their first deal nearly 2 years ago. Of course. Hey there, this is Carl. How are you today? Hello? See, that was my fault. I should have spoke a little faster. That was my fault. Let me get a drink here. One thing I've noticed is after all this talking, my voice is starting to give a little gruff on me. Plus, there's a little bit of asthma in the air, right? Or I should say pollen in the air. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. Excuse me. So it's not really difficult for me to believe that Sean Pan or John Smith or Jane Doe or anybody else would make $300,000 2 years ago when the market was rocketing up. But as we've seen, the 12th straight month of diminishing price increases, it's not like the prices are going down. It's just that they're not going up as fast as they used to. Let's go back into this story. Says that a new crop of flippers inspired by HGTV reality shows, real estate meetup groups, and get-rich gurus piled into the market in recent years as rapid price gains helped the last property cash fade from memory. How does that saying go? Those that don't know their history are destined to repeat it. Has it really been that long? Has it really been that long that we've forgotten the basics of...
Hello?
Hi, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
Who are you?
Well, I'm not sure if I have the right person, so I apologize. Is this Miss Everts?
Well, who are you?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Carl Krenzel. I was calling about a property you might be the owner of over there on Foothills Drive. I'm a broker who buys property. I was calling to see...
Well, first of all, I'm not selling anything, and I don't appreciate these unsolicited phone calls. And I certainly would not sell to you now. Goodbye.
Well, Jesus loves you anyway. Have a great day. All right. I'll take that as a no. I'm fairly certain that's a no. Let's say she's not interested. Call that one a no. I think that's certainly fair.
That customer you have called is unavailable.
It's interesting.
To take your...
I don't even take things like that personally because, quite honestly, she said, I'm not going to sell the home, and I certainly wouldn't sell it to you. Well, what difference does it make if you're going to sell it to me if you're not going to sell it at all? See what I mean? There's no sense in taking that personally. People just get upset, and that's okay. Some will, some won't. So what? It's not that big of a deal. Keep moving because someone's still waiting. All right, let's move back on. Said that a new crop of flippers inspired by HGTV, real estate media groups, and get-rich gurus piled into the market. And that's absolutely true. So many people tend to look at this and listen to the podcast. And if you're just watching this on Sell More Homes Now on YouTube, then I would highly recommend you go over and listen to the podcast at theredpillinvestor.com. Get some of the free scripts that I have over there. If you'd like, I would certainly appreciate it if you would join our premium podcast. We have a lot of... Hello? Oh, hey there. This is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
Good. What is this regarding?
Well, I'm not sure if I have the right person, so I apologize in advance. Again, my name is Carl Krenzel. I was looking for the owners of that property over there on Foothills Drive by the name of Meyer. Would that be your name? Or would that be your property, sir?
No, sir.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I apologize. Well, listen, since I got you anyway, do you know anybody who's got an unwanted home I could buy for cash? A simple no would probably work, but that's okay. Not that big of a deal. All right, so let's change this one to wrong number. Let's see. Hang on just a second. Okay, well, that's good enough. Forget it. All right, move on. Okay. What a lot of people don't realize when they're listening to the podcast, especially if you, as I was mentioning, the premium podcast, I would appreciate it if you'd go check that out too. We've got well over, I don't know, I want to say 50, 60, 70, 100 premium podcasts that you can listen to that are presentations, things that the regular folks do not get on iTunes or do not get on the regular podcast. This is a premium podcast that you can subscribe to. I would certainly recommend you check that out. And the reason why I think is because you'll find that there's going to be a lot of advice on how you can present this kind of information to your customers. Because listen to me, if you listen to nothing else, as long as we've been doing this podcast and video, listen to this. Okay, this is coming. I've been talking about it for the last few days. This is coming. The market is flattening out, and you need to know how to present this to your customers in such a way so that they'll sell property to you or list their property at a price that's going to be reasonable. Look, when the market's on fire, okay, it's easy to be smart. It's easy to be smarter than everybody in the room when it doesn't take anything to sell a property, when all you have to do is just put it in the multiple listing service and then it sells. That doesn't take a lot of skill. But when the market starts pooling and you have a lot more properties on the market, that's a lot harder to deal with. And you have to learn how to sell. And these people here, they spent, $25,000 to learn how to do this, and they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why? Because it does not mean marketing is not the way to sell a property. You can market a property and of course you could discount your fees or whatever to get the business. Certainly you could do that. But if you want to make the most money possible, if you want to do that without having to, take it in the shorts, well then gosh, you have to learn some skills. And the problem is skills, it's not that it's expensive, it's just that it takes time, and people don't always have the time to invest to learn the skills. I mean, listen to this. It's hard for you to sit here and watch me prospect for an hour. I mean, it's difficult for you to listen on a prospecting, even on the podcast. I mean, gosh, you got things to do. You got an appointment. Moving into a Mittman area right here now. Keep on dialing. Says that a new crop of flippers inspired by there, right? Glenn Weinberg, he's the Denver-based chief operating officer of Fairview Commercial Lending, said, quote, flipping only works in an appreciating market where homes move quickly. Well, I suppose that's probably true, to a certain degree, by and large. He says, but their standards for their lending, they're tightening their standards for real estate investors. Those factors are now in flux, and that's why that's what's going to lead to a demise of a lot of flippers. See, what's happening is people are going out and getting these high interest rate loans, the hard money loans, to do these flips, which will have a lot of times the the money wrapped into it. And so you as an investor, you go in there and you say, well, gosh, it's no problem. I'm not going to go in there with a whole lot of skin of my own, other people's money. I've read my books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, played the game, yada, yada, all the stuff you did. And now you come to buy a property and you think it's only going to take a couple months to flip it because everything's going fast. But guess what? Now things have slowed down. And now there's more homes on the market and everybody around you is putting their home on the market. And now you think to yourself, well, that's no problem because I got a contract on mine. I'm in good shape. And then when you've got yours under contract, well, gosh, now your buyer starts giving you trouble. Maybe your appraisal doesn't come in. And now you're in trouble because it's taken longer and longer and longer for you to close. And your interest rate on that hard money loan, what, 13, 14, 15%, whatever it may be, or higher, accumulating every single month. I mean, that's just not going to work as a sustainable business model. If you're a home investor, okay, and you're a flipper, you have to understand the market in the intimate way. If you're going to be flipping property, the time on market, you have to be able to forecast this a little bit and understand that right now, nationwide and including in your area, there is a pooling going on. And if there's a pooling going on, it means it's going to take longer for your properties to sell. And if it's going to take longer for your properties going to sell, you're going to have to account for that in your buy price. Think this through. I mean, if you were figuring that it was going to take you 3 months, start to finish, to put it on the market and sell it, whatnot, and now it's taking you 4 or maybe even 5 months, that's another couple months worth of interest that you have to pay. And you have to make up that money somewhere, which means in your buy price. If you're a wholesaler, you have to think this as part of the equation as well. Because your end use buyer, your end use wholesaler, your end use flipper, I should say, right? The guy you're going to flip it to, he's going to have to incur a little bit more cost when it comes to the hard money, and it's going to take him a little bit more time to sell. So you need to make sure that you leave enough meat on the bone for everybody. Don't be greedy. You can't be greedy, especially in a market that is starting to tighten up. It says 6.5% of U.S. home sales in the fourth quarter were flips or homes sold within a year from the time that they last changed hands. This was.
Hello.
Hey, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm not sure if I have the right person, but I apologize. Is this the Ericksons over there on Hawthorne?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, my name is Carl Krenzel. I'm a broker here in town who buys property. I was calling to see if you'd ever considered selling that property. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I can't say that I blame you. That's a beautiful home right there. Well, no
Well,
worries.
thank you.
Well, do you happen to know offhand of any of your neighbors, perhaps, that might be interested in an all-cash offer just closing in the next, 30, 60, 90 days?
No, I haven't. I don't know of any. There has just been 2 homes that sold within the last month. So
yes, ma'am. That's a really nice area.
My street.
Yeah, yes, that's why I'm calling. That's why I'm calling. It's a really nice area. So, okay.
Yeah, we like it a lot. It's just but you never know. My husband passed away a couple of years ago, so
I'm so sorry.
Well, I am too, but who knows?
I hear you.
Things change sometimes, so I'll keep you in mind
Well,
if I ever decide to.
Well, I appreciate your time, ma'am. You have a wonderful day, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So, there we go. Here we go. 6.5% of the U.S. sales, as we said, it said this was the highest, this is quote, the highest share in seasonally adjusted data going back to 2002. Now, I want to put this in perspective for you, especially if you're on the listening end of this at the podcast, right? For the last 17 years, okay, the amount of flips in the market has always been less than it was in the last fourth quarter of 2018. Okay. The fourth quarter of 2018, the absolute highest it's been in terms of flips in 17 years. And that was 6.5% of all US sales. Now, that's just according to CoreLogic. All right. Those are the folks who keep track of all this stuff. All right. Now, if you think about its new builds and all these other things that go in there, that can be an incredible amount. Now, when you think about it, all right, in the last housing crash or whatever you'd call it, right? You remember, if you've been in the business any period of time, you'll remember periods of time where people would buy new builds. And they would buy them, speculators would buy them, just specifically with the intent to resell them because, the values were going up so fast. And you remember how there was so much new building going on that back in the day, there would even be people who would, camp out, line up. They'd have lotteries, all that kind of craziness to get a build or a lot to build in a particular subdivision. There'd be people camping out. There'd be people lining up. There'd be people with a lottery. You couldn't get enough people. You couldn't get enough homes. And what people would do is they would go ahead and buy these properties, turn around and sell them as an investment property and as a speculative kind of issue. And people would turn around and buy it from them or whatever. And then eventually homeowners associations and builders eventually came to the point where they said, well, gosh, we're not going to let that happen anymore. They put the time out on that and said, we're not going to do that anymore. That was a huge amount of the flipping that went on in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8. Up until the crash. That was an enormous amount of the crash, an enormous amount of the flipping that was going on. Okay. The difference here, all right, in 2019, 10 years later, is that you've got people who are buying property and sinking money into these fix-up properties with hard money loans, which come from private investment groups having a higher interest rate and a low down payment. And the loans themselves are bigger because of the renovations that are all wrapped up in it. I mean, it's not just your local guy. Look, I know plenty of people, and you do too, where you are, who flip properties like this, and then they maybe have a hard money guy that they know, right? And the hard money guy that they know, I don't know, maybe he's retired guy, he's air conditioning guy, he sold his company and he's got millions or something. I don't know, right? But there's also larger companies, including Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, who've gotten into this kind of lending. And this has helped drive some of these interest rates below 10% in some places. So, if you're paying a local guy 13%, 14% for your flip or whatever, and then you can, you've got a hookup with somebody at Blackstone or somebody who's got a friend over there that can help you or something along those lines, you get your interest rate a little bit cheaper. Maybe you can go on there. That's going to help those kind of situations work out. Maybe you're at Blackstone or one of their subsidiaries. And the problem there, when you've got so many people dumping money into properties that are raising the values, people can't, their wages are not increasing fast enough as their home prices have.
I'm sorry, this mailbox is.
Home prices have not increased. I'm sorry, home prices have increased faster than wages have. I'm going to leave this girl's story. I'm going to leave her name out because I really feel sorry for her. She doesn't deserve to have her name put on a podcast or in a YouTube video and to be made fun of, because this is horrible. It could happen to a lot of people, and it has happened to a lot of people. So I won't subject her to any kind of ridicule, because God bless her heart, this could happen to anybody, right? But this poor woman in Seattle got into property investing after attending a $25,000 real estate coaching program. The course taught her to, quote, think big, quote, stay positive, quote, and never quit. Jeez Louise. Think big, stay positive, never quit. $25,000. I wonder if that's like is that $8,250 per vague thought? Is that what it is? $8,250 to think big, $8,250 to stay positive, and another $8,250 to never quit. Is that what that is? Maybe you had to pay some tax or something? $25,000 to learn how to think big, stay positive, and never quit. Gosh, I wonder where she went. It said in 2016, it's 3 years ago, she left a 6-figure job and started flipping houses. When the demand slumped last year, she fell behind on hard money loan payments for 2 houses languishing on the market, and she has 1 more to get rid of. Oh my gosh. We will get through this dip. Things are perking up already, she says. Nevertheless, she's reconsidering the wisdom of reselling rehabs. Her goal now is to buy 25 houses in Pittsburgh, a cheaper, less volatile market, with a strategy of holding on to these properties as rentals. My goodness. It's no, honey, no. Baby, no. That's not the problem. The problem is not moving to Pittsburgh, where cheaper, less volatile homes and a strategy of holding on. That's not your problem. Your problem is you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You got into something, reminds me of this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. There's a chapter in there where the guy gives his money to a fellow who's going to go invest for him in some jewels. And after a while, the guy doesn't come back with the money. And as a matter of fact, he comes back with less and nothing at all. And he goes back to this man and he says, well, what happened? And he says, well, you gave the money to somebody who didn't know what the heck they were investing in. And that's what's going on here. You've got people in this game who've paid $25,000 or more to learn how to invest from people who don't invest. I mean, from people, oh, sure, yeah, they look great. They sell hundreds of homes in their universities or blah, 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 blah. But you know what? That's entirely different than one person with no real estate skills, no real estate background, no education in the game, jumping in, taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans and trying to rebuild a house the way they think it needs to be done and turn around and selling it on the open market. Listen, if everybody could just put a home on the multiple listing and sell, then we'd all be rich and there'd never be an expired listing. Look, the truth is you've got to take the bitter pill that you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Many times you think you know everything. I think I know everything. We all fall into this trap of ego. And that's where we are here with the market right now. This woman lost $25,000, has 2 homes on the market that isn't selling, and another home that is still there. She still can't figure it out. And I'm telling you that the market is softening. It's going down. It's the 12th straight month. Look.
Please leave your message for.
Look, check out what realtor.com said. Realtor.com said the fastest growing metro area was one of the hardest hit in the recession, Las Vegas. The metro included the main city and the surrounding smaller urban areas, suburbs, and exurbs. The price growth surged 8.2% year over year in Sin City, where the foreclosure crisis left scores of empty homes and vacant building lots. As of April 1st, the median list price reached $315,000, according to most Realtor.com data. Okay? You've got certain areas that surged and did very well because of the market and where it was. When they had all those new homes that they were building, because people were doing all that speculation, and then the market collapsed, and then when you had the market go back up, people came back to the market, there was more buyers available, and now you have a more viable community. Then you see Phoenix following right next to it. Phoenix, they've got 6.1% price growth. The median list price in Phoenix is $349,000. That's great. For people like me here in Tucson, we get ample benefit from that. When you look at Tampa had a 5.3% increase. That's a retirement spot just like Phoenix is. God bless those folks. Now, when you think about it, what does this mean? If those were the areas that went up the most, while the whole country is kind of going down, well, where are the areas that are going down the most? Well, I'm going to give you a couple guesses, and I'll bet you'll figure it out very quickly. You're absolutely right. The metros where price appreciation fell the most were also the most expensive. The West Coast saw the biggest drops, with Seattle leading the pack with 11.4% decline in price growth. 11%. 11%. What does that mean for you as an investor in that area? I mean, here it is. What did it say? Seattle, 11.4% down in Seattle. And then LA declined 6.7%. San Francisco down 9.9%. I mean, let's go back to this fellow's story just a few minutes ago. What's his name? Mr. Pan, Dan Pan. Yeah, Pan. Sean Pan, right? Here he is. He's over there, Sunnyvale, the San Francisco area, and he's got properties that aren't selling. And here we are in a separate article from realtor.com, and we say, well, gosh, it's because San Francisco's price growth went down 9.9%. Well, I'm wondering if you figured that out in your evaluation when you were buying that property. Here you are buying property as an investor, as a wholesaler, whatever you're claiming to do. Are you thinking this through, that the prices are starting to tank in certain places, right? However, prices were still up 1.6 annually, all right? That's because of the cost of a home and the increase in its price are two different things. So buyers shouldn't expect a bargain in Amazon's backyard. That's in Seattle. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about overall. They're just saying in Seattle that the prices itself were still up, but the growth has kind of gone down 11%, right? The guy says, I would not call Seattle affordable, but it's more affordable than it was a year ago. Oh my goodness. Seattle was followed by San Francisco, where price growth went down 9.9%, and Los Angeles, where it declined 6.7%. Median prices in those metros were $948,000 and $750,000 respectively. Listen, if you are an investor, if you're a wholesaler, if you're in a realtor who invests, you have to be aware that the market is changing. There's just no two ways about it. You have to be aware of this. And if you're not aware of this, if you can't adequately explain this to your customers, if you can't adequately explain this to the people you're talking to or your prospect.
Hello?
Hey, this is Carl Krenzel. How are you today?
Hello?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Carl. How are you?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Well, for whatever reason, I'm not sure. Not sure why she couldn't hear me on that one, but regardless, right? You have to be able to explain this to other people, and I think you also have to be able to persuade your sellers, persuade your buyers, persuade the people you're talking to that the market is changing. And if you're a wholesaler, if you're an investor, if you're a flipper, take this seriously. Okay, for the love of God, please take this seriously. I have seen so many people lose so much money for far less. You have to think this through. The market is changing. That's the best advice I can give you today. So guys, listen, thank you for sharing with me. I would highly recommend you go and check out our podcast at theredpillinvestor.com, especially if you're looking for scripts, free scripts. We've got the Red Pill Investor Premium podcast there. We have all sorts of free scripts available. The presentation scripts, if you're a wholesaler, if you're an investor, especially a realtor who invests, you're trying to figure out a way, how do I get people to maybe list with me if I've tried to give them a wholesale offer and they don't want my wholesale offer. Well, how do I get them to list with me? Well, the scripts are there too. So check those out. There's plenty of information. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to hit the comment box. I will be sure to respond to them as often as I can. Thank you so much for all the great instant messages, the emails, the ideas, and the things that you've been sharing with me. I hope that this has been of value to you. If it has, do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up or share it with somebody. Let somebody know that it has been helpful to you, and hopefully this will be a blessing to them. Guys, I appreciate all the attention you've given me, and I hope that you have a powerful sales day. Bye-bye.